Imagine the colossal energy required to power the entirety of Sarawak, fueling the essential facets of modern life. Energy is the force behind work, generating light, heat, as well as motion. In our homes, it's indispensable for cooking, lighting, as well as cooling. Commercial spaces thrive in energy, illuminating malls and providing power to shops as well as offices. Industries harness its power for manufacturing and processing raw materials. Transportation relies on energy, propelling machines for agriculture, public transit, and domestic vehicles. Beyond physical applications, modern connectivity and communication are intricately linked to a consistent energy supply. As Sarawak experiences a growing population and increased economic activities, the need for a reliable, affordable, and efficient power and fuel supply becomes imperative. In this interplay of supply and demand, energy emerges as the lifeblood, supporting the array of activities that define modern life. In the realm of Sarawak, energy transcends the ordinary, becoming a driving force that extends beyond everyday consumption. This land plays a pivotal role in the energy supply, not just for its own people, but also for the entire nation and beyond. Sarawak stands as a powerhouse, rich in diverse energy resources ranging from fossil fuels to hydropower. As a regional energy hub, Sarawak contributes significantly to the broader energy landscape. What sets it apart is the commitment to low-carbon solutions, aligning with the Paris Agreement's goal of reaching net zero by 2050. Sarawak's journey unfolds as a narrative of not just meeting energy needs, but leading the charge towards a sustainable and environmentally conscious future for its people and the world. In this pursuit, Sarawak emerges not only as a source of power, but as a beacon of responsible and forward-thinking energy practices.
For Sarawak, energy means more than just being able to watch arcade dramas or going to the malls. Sarawak plays a huge role in being able to supply power to its own people, to the rest of the country, and to the rest of the world. Sarawak is actually heading towards being the regional powerhouse for Southeast Asia. Come with me as we discover an energy ecosystem of our self-sustaining Sarawak that powers beyond the land of hornbills. Where I am right now is actually where the whole concept of Rumah Asap first kicked off for Sarawak. Miri is the second city of Sarawak with a population of over 300,000 locals and expatriates combined. Just like the rest of Sarawak, Miri is multiracial, with the top three races being Iban, Malay, and Chinese, followed by all the other ethnic groups, which makes Sarawak a pretty multicultural paradise, I'd say.
Miri is the only division in Sarawak where natural gas is piped directly into homes for domestic use. Access to piped natural gas gives us, the residents of Miri, a convenient and reliable source of energy for cooking. Emily recently had a conversation with her friend, Julian, about this.
What am I makanan tadi?
Betul.
Badao, you're in luck. Laban, I'm cooking something extra special. Actually, caya no aku nak kalap mandok pansuh.
Amat deh.
Amat na bulak kedek. So this is actually my first time cooking it.
Oh, nade ruas itu ne.
Bisik ruas tang ngay nyo nak smaya to makai lagi. So this is the modern way.
Pansuh ngena gas.
Yep.
Like it.
We're actually using underground gas, which is honestly such a convenience. Maya kami lagi ngena tung gas suba amat tak. Tusah maya benung berapi tiba-tiba habis gas nyo terpaksa agak nurun kedai nyo terpaksa pengawak beritahu.
Aman.
Yeah.
Nyalontung orang Miri kan?
Yeah, very lucky honestly. And it's actually a lot cheaper than beli gas dari kedai.
Betul. Sige amat.
Yeah. Lagi ingat ko may ko dia ba menua orang Sabah. every month electricity bill ko, I think most of that was actually for my induction cooker. Balat make karan induction cooker. So as of today, I still rely on this one for electric, but ngayade ngiga cara buka juga because I need the temperature accuracy for my baking.
Nemo deh, untung orang Miri. Gas bisa ba Miri dah 70 years dah, 70 tahun. Since Shell that time, 1952, so Shell bisa ngadu gas installation ba Tanjung Lubang start untuk Sidang Base Camp and PSO Camp. Start dari Shell 1952 and then pass on to our state government through JKR mayanya, and then to Sesco, and then eventually now, which is in January 2020, Suba, Petros took over.
And that's just in Miri.
In Miri, just Miri alone. So I think kami nak gas saja. So you bisa gas apa nama? Kita bisa dito. Buat rumah dia bisa gas itu kan? I don't think it's for cooking.
Medan Sabakas was installed with pipe gas supply in February 2023. And true to his promise, Julian has brought Emily here to show her this development that is benefiting the lucky vendors.
Yeah, so that's it. Those are gas for cooking, not just for domestic, but also for businesses.
I can definitely see how much it's changed that Auntie's life. What other uses are there for gas?
Well, not just for cooking. So we've got laundry, right? In fact, there are hundreds of laundries here in Miri that is using gas for the dryer. And on top of laundry, we're talking about gas for powering air conditioning, gas for space cooling. And we've got a lot of leading supermarkets, leading shopping malls here, and leading medical centers here in Miri. That's basically using gas to power the air conditioning. And it's tremendous cost saving in that sense compared to conventional air conditioning. So Miri is very blessed and privileged to have this access of utilities.
Wow, I didn't imagine, how reliant all these sectors were on gas. It's really eye-opening, to say the least.
Wait till I show you the Miri gas distribution network.
Can't wait to see it.
These developments here in Miri are evidence that we have come a long way from where we first began. Let's find out more.
In search of the history behind Sarawak's energy development, I decided to go back to where it all began. Miri. This is where the first oil was found, and I know just the right person to talk to, the mayor of the city. So here I am, Miri City Hall. Good day, YB Mayor. Thank you so much for making the time for being with us here today. Can you share with us a little bit about yourself, a quick introduction, and perhaps share an interesting fact about yourself?
Okay, Emily. I am actually originally from Sarike, and I left Sarike in 1974 to go to KL for my further education, and I graduated from University Malaya in 1980 and started working in the oil and gas industry. And it was by chance that my company, at a point in time, a French oil field service company, sent me to Miri to start up a contract that the company has just signed with Shell. And that was the first time I came to Miri, and I have never left.
Wow.
Yeah.
So back then, Miri was actually known as Oil Town, right?
Correct.
So this is actually where our country's petroleum industry first began, and it has really kicked off since then. Could you perhaps walk us down memory lane and share with us the history of oil and gas in Sarawak?
Okay, the history of oil and gas in Sarawak really started in Miri in the year 1910, when Shell first found oil from the well they drilled at Canada Hill. That presently we call it the Grand Old Lady. Yeah. And interestingly, I was made to understand that Shell, prior to this, discovery was actually a trading company. So Miri really made Shell as an oil and gas company as we know Shell now. So from the first well, of course, more discovery was done. And Miri has then grown on the back of this oil and gas development. In the early days, Miri was actually known as Shell Town, and Shell was actually in control of almost every aspect.
How would you say the oil and gas industry have impacted the lives of people in Miri, and then the people in Malaysia, and then pretty much people across the globe?
Okay, oil and gas are essential commodities. The whole industry, the automotive industry depend on oil. Yeah, so it is of tremendous importance. For Miri in particular, of course, Miri has been built on the back of the development of oil and gas. And the revenue that we have generated, of course, also impacted on the economy of Malaysia. Sarawak has contributed tremendous amount of revenue to the federal government over the years. And of course, globally, the economy is still very much dependent on oil and gas.
Yeah. And what would you say have changed over the years with regards to access to power supply?
Okay, coming back to the remark that I made just now about Shell or Miri being a Shell town, the power supply, the electricity supply was actually the power station was actually Shell that is located at the Pujuk Roundabout. And another very interesting fact is that only in Miri, for the whole of Malaysia, only in Miri we have domestic houses, residential houses, having a piped gas supply. So this is the power that Shell has impacted on Miri.
Coming back to the point of natural gas supply, we're really quite blessed in one aspect in Miri to have an abundant resource of natural gas, because our gas bills for homes, for domestic use, is actually quite affordable, I would say. And to think that we're the only ones in Malaysia, and other parts of the country, they're still paying for
the
gas tank. Yeah. And the price difference is actually quite drastic.
Exactly. So the gas distribution in Sarawak has been taken over by our Sarawak government through Petros. And Petros is now actively promoting and encouraging greater utilization of the gas. And in Miri here, we are having some commercial properties having this gas-driven air conditioning. And just 2 days ago, we have this pipe gas supply to hawkers or traders at Medan Sepakas. So this is also another step for the promotion of gas utilization. On a Miri City Council point of view, we are also encouraging new developments to have the infrastructure for the supply of gas to the new residential houses. Yeah. And presently, the pipe gas to residential houses, Miri is the only place in Malaysia.
And what would you say have changed over the years with regards to access to power supply?
The electricity power supply was done by Shell through its power generation plant at the Pujuk Corner. That plant presently is still running, mostly serving as a backup. The power supply in Miri now is mainly through the grid, the national grid from Batang Air Bakun and all that. That is link the whole state lah. In order to make sure that there is no power disruption, in fact, our Sarawak government is going to build a combined cycle power generation plant in Miri here at Lutong, just recently being announced by our Premier. Yeah. So this is to ensure that there will be minimal power disruption.
Is there any chance of us seeing Miri being the next capital? I mean, especially considering the fact that it borders two countries, Kalimantan and Brunei. I think it fits the bill.
Yes, certainly. I think as Mirians, of course, we would hope that one day Miri will become the capital of Sarawak. And incidentally, our late Chief Minister at that time, Dr. Nan, during one of his speech in Miri, did mention that maybe Sarawak government can consider moving the capital from Kuching to Miri. Yeah.
Okay, let's hope that happens.
Yeah, certainly.
So reaching out to our younger Sarawakian viewers at home, what would be the one thing you'd want them to know that you wish you had learned earlier on in life?
Okay, one thing I realized towards later of my life now, that we need to do everything to the best of our ability and also enjoy every moment of it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for your time today, YB Mayor, and thank you for sharing your insight as well as the history of Miri and helping me understand it better. I don't think I could have asked anyone better in town. We hope to see you again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Emily. Pleasure meeting you.
Pleasure meeting you as well.
Shell, being the pioneering player in the development of the oil and gas industry in Miri, Sarawak, and throughout Malaysia, marks significant milestones in our country's energy sector. As we already know, the discovery of oil in 1910 was in Miri, and that's as far as where Shell's involvement began. This discovery transformed Miri into a hub of oil exploration and production, laying the foundation for our country's petroleum industry. Shell's expertise, technological advancements, and investments were instrumental in expanding oil and gas operations in Miri and beyond. Let's hear more about this from the astounding Puan Siti Sulaiman, the country chair of Shell Malaysia.
Hi Siti, thank you so much for making the time for being with us here today. We'd love to get to know you. Would you kindly tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Thank you very much, Emily. Good to see you this morning. So my name is Siti Hurairah Sulaiman, so indeed you can call me Siti. I'm part of Sarawak Shell Berhad, which is part of the bigger Shell Group. I'm currently the Senior Vice President for Shell Malaysia Upstream, as well as the Country Chair for Shell Malaysia. In fact, I just came into role on the 1st of January this year.
Wow, you're definitely a superwoman, I can say that for sure. So, growing up in my generation, Miri was, I've always seen Miri as this resort town, but I know that, back in those years, perhaps in your generation, it was more of an oil town. Can you share with me a little bit about how Miri was like back then?
Let me just start off with a bit of history. So Shell started off in Miri in 1910, right? That was about 113 years ago. In fact, I was just going to show you, we drilled the first oil on top of Canada Hill here in Miri back in 1910.
The Grand Old Lady.
The Grand Old Lady. So there you go. That's a replica, right, of the Grand Old Lady. We drilled the well in 1910, we discovered oil, and ever since, right, I mean, we have been active in the oil and gas activities, here in Sarawak. So a lot of history, that kind of backdated from 1910. But of course, since then, a lot of other things had taken place. We were actively exploring offshore as well. We started onshore, but we began to explore in the offshore side of Sarawak around about 1960s. So 1968, that was the first, it's called West Lutong. That was in fact the first oil producing asset that we have here in Sarawak. And, after that, we discovered gas, we discovered other oil fields, and we continued to progress. In 1974, the enactment of the Petroleum Development Act, so-called the PDA in short, that was a big milestone because that was also the time that we saw the establishment of Petronas, which is of course our national oil company, and we began to partner with Petronas in a lot of our oil and gas activities. But of course, here in Miri, we remain very active. We had our first refinery as well in Miri many years ago. We also established our downstream retail business in Miri in the wider Sarawak many years ago. This was after 1950s. And today, we are still operating around about 100 retail sites all across Sarawak. And if you look at, some of our local Mirians, a lot of them have worked for Shell for so many different generations. If you go around, the organization, you'll find some of them are either the third generation or even the fourth generation, right, of people who have worked in Shell. So I do believe, I think, we have made a lot of impact, and we have, in a way, progressed with Miri town, and now, it's called Miri City, right? And I would say, Miri, of course, as a city will continue to progress. Not just in the context of kind of the influence from the oil and gas, but really the energy sector in general, right? And Miri, I believe, will be part of the wider energy transition agenda of Sarawak going forward.
Definitely. So the energy industry as a whole has seen a lot of development as of lately, and Sarawak is seeing a substantial amount of progress. Can you share with us a little bit of Shell's achievements that have contributed to this?
Sure. So I've spoken a little bit about, what we did in Miri particularly, but if I think about the wider Sarawak as well, one that I would really like to mention, Emily, is the construction of our first gas-to-liquid plant in Bintulu, which is called the SMDS plant that we actually brought on stream in 1993. That was actually just a year before I joined Shell, but that was a big deal at that time because SMDS actually is the first gas-to-liquid plant, not just in Shell, but in the world. So that's where we started, the whole gas-to-liquid technology. And we actually then kind of brought the technology to build, the Qatar, So we have a plant, another GTL plant in Doha, in Qatar, called the Pearl plant. So a lot of the learnings that we took from SMDS Bintulu were actually used to build the second GTL plant that was, that's of course currently operating in Qatar. So fantastic history of, of SMDS in Bintulu. But of course, in the upstream side of the business, if I bring you to the present day, we actually have taken quite a lot of final investment decisions on a number of major projects. So two that I would like to mention. One is a project called Rosary and Marjoram. It's a bit of a full mouth. We call it R&M in short. We took final investment decision on this project last year. The reason why I want to mention it explicitly is because it's actually the biggest project that we have seen today in Shell Malaysia upstream. It's a multi-billion-dollar project that cuts across a couple of years. And hopefully, if everything goes well, we should be able to declare first gas from this particular project at the back end of 2026. And the beauty about this project is that we have offshore development where, we are going to be developing the gas field, and the gas will be produced through a long pipeline that goes to an onshore plant. And that onshore plant, again, is going to be one of our biggest plants in Bintulu. And we are going to be constructing that very soon. And hopefully, if everything goes well, as I said, we will be able to see first gas in 2026. The second one that I would like to mention is a project called TIMI. It's also a project offshore Sarawak. It's a gas field, also producing through Bintulu. TIMI actually will be producing this year. And again, hopefully, if everything lines up, we will have first gas from this TIMI field before the back end of this year. And TIMI actually will be powered by hybrid solar wind power system. And this is really a fantastic contribution towards kind of the whole energy transition, right? Using renewable energy, right, to power up, the entire offshore system.
In this segment of the documentary, we explore the compelling lives of the people of energy. These dedicated individuals face a myriad of challenges and responsibilities as they navigate the high-risk environment of their workplace. The significance of their work becomes even more apparent when considering that a substantial part of the state relies on their diligence to ensure an uninterrupted power supply. So we've heard from Siti about the development of oil and gas in Sarawak and its contribution to the energy industry of not just the state, but to Malaysia and beyond as well. Now we'll dig a little deeper, a little more personal, into her world as a woman in energy. The country chair of Shell Malaysia, no less.
Would you tell us a little bit about, what your background is, as well as how you started out in the industry?
Sure. I came from Kuching, Sarawak, by the way, and I left home. That was back in 1989 when I got a scholarship from Shell. So I started off with Shell a long time ago. And it was back then that Shell actually sent me to the UK to pursue my studies, where I did A-levels, and then after that I pursued a degree in mechanical engineering under the sponsorship of Shell. Now, when I graduated, Shell offered me a job. So in fact, Sarawak Shell, Berhad, at that time offered me a job. And of course, I couldn't resist. I took up the offer and I moved to Miri. So that's when I started off, my career in Shell here in Miri. And of course, when I joined Shell at that time, I did many different roles. I started off in the technical space, and then I started to kind of move and broaden myself into many other different areas. And I will be clocking 29 years of my career in Shell this year.
Wow. Okay, so from what I know, you've been in the industry since 1994.
That's right.
You've come a long way. Can you tell us a little bit about, your achievements in different positions, as well as the different fields that you've taken over the years?
Sure. So when I came in 1994, I started off in what we call the operations space. And that's, that was kind of the role, as an operations engineer, where we had to support many of our offshore operations. So I had to go out to some of our offshore assets, both in Sabah as well as in Sarawak. I even worked in Bintulu for a while, so I spent about 2.5 years in Bintulu, and at that time we were operating what we call the Bintulu Crude Oil Terminal. And that was the first, crude oil terminal that we built in Bintulu back in 1978, round about that. So I had the opportunity to work as what we call the plant technologies at that time. And it was after that I moved back to Miri to do a couple of other technical roles. But after 7-8 years, doing what I call the hands-on operations technical roles, I moved out into the non-technical space. And this is, again, the beauty of being in Shell, because it's such a big organization, that really offers lots of different opportunities to our staff. So I was able to, do roles in some of the non-technical space, including HR, so human resource. So I spent about 3 years, broadening in HR, after which I moved to overseas. So I moved to Aberdeen, Scotland, working for our North Sea assets, still in the upstream business for a couple of years. And then I came back to Miri. And when I came back to Miri, that was also the time that I went into further into the non-technical space. So I did economics, planning, commercial. And then, just when I thought I was kind of moving away from what I call the technical space, in 2011, I was appointed as the general manager for the Sabah asset. And at that time, Sabah asset was one of our biggest assets here in Shell Malaysia Upstream. So I spent about 4.5 years, lots of really great memories of, the role. And simply because that was also the time that we brought into production the first deep water field for Shell Malaysia Upstream, but importantly also the biggest producer in Malaysia for oil. So lots of really proud moments, I would say, during that time. In 2015, I left what we call the upstream business. So this is kind of the conventional oil and gas business, to move into what we call the downstream trading and supply. So that was the time I went to the UK, And I was leading a global organization for about 5 years in the trading supply downstream part of our business, which was a completely different environment from upstream. So that was kind of a big step for me, but completely enjoyed it. And then after that, I move on into other regional global roles, that include integrated gas, kind of the LNG business. And then just before this role, I was heading a global technical asset operations organization. So that's a bit of history of like the 28, 29 years that I've been with Shell, Emily.
Wow, you've definitely done a little bit of everything, and you were somehow always outside of your comfort zone, but you learned so much out of it. So being in a very male-dominated industry, what were some of your fears and struggles, as well as challenges that you had to go through being one of the first few female pioneers of the industry?
I must say that I have experienced many aspects of what I call the diversity, inclusiveness aspect, right? And today we call it D&I. When I first started many years ago, as I said, when I went offshore, before I went offshore, I was so concerned, I was so fearful about the fact that I had to be out there, where we all knew at that time that it was a very male-dominated community. During my time, it was very rare for ladies to go offshore. I mean, we had, a couple of female colleagues who did go out prior to that, and you kind of pick stories along the way, and, that created perception that, this is not going to work for me, right? And I became really concerned and fearful, actually. But I thought, okay, I had to do it, right? It was part of the job, it was part of the role. So I did that. So I went out quite a lot of times. But of course, the first time, it was like, I didn't know what to expect. I was afraid of the fact that I might be excluded, right? From engagements, from conversations, and just not knowing how to act. I think that was my main concern as well. But I kind of went on with it, right? Really kind of pushing myself outside that comfort zone. But, to my surprise, Emily, I was very welcome offshore. The warmth, the hospitality, as I put it, that I felt when I was offshore was not one that I was, expecting at that time, right? And I had lots of great conversations with my colleagues. I mean, these were fathers, right? These were people, who had daughters, of course, at that time. And, they were saying to me, oh, we wish that we could have more of our female colleagues coming offshore, supporting the assets, being engineers. In fact, some of them were saying, I'm going to encourage my daughters or daughter, to pursue engineering studies or technical studies, right? So they can be like you, they can go out here, right? And really kind of make that difference. And that really kind of broke my perception, like broke that kind of, glass ceiling and that wall, and I started to believe that, this is, it's not about kind of the male colleagues putting up that wall. It's sometimes about ourselves, right? It's us who's kind of imposing those perceptions. So that was kind of my discovery in those days.
Wow. I like how overcoming these limiting beliefs, you actually turned out to be an inspiration to people working offshore for their children. You set the bar pretty high. So speaking of children, can you share a little bit about how you balance your time as a mother, as well as someone who carries so many roles in such a big organization?
So I have 3 daughters, but they're grown up. So 2 of them are over 20s, and then the youngest one is actually 17. And I always believe that she's my baby, will always be my baby. But I was going to say, there is no one solution that fits all. When I come to think about how do I prioritize my time with the children, and I realized as well that my priorities also changed over the years as the children grew up. When they were a lot younger, they required a lot of attention, and they required different type of attention as well, right? And I found myself, I think in those years, I was imposing a lot of rules. I had to be there a lot for them, to guide them, to steer them. But of course, when today they are at this stage, some of them, 2 of them are young adults. So I find myself evolving with them. And my parenting technique today is very different from what it was many years ago. And today, I find myself playing more of that coach, mentor. I provide guidance and steer, but I don't impose anymore. right? And I learn, of course, sometimes the hard way as well, right? When you try to impose some things, it just doesn't work on them anymore. And so with them, I have learned a lot. They actually have taught me a lot of things over the years. But one thing for sure, Emily, I still allocate a lot of time for my children, my family, my children, my husband. They are definitely my priority in life. If I have got to make that choice, it's definitely my family first before anything else.
Wow. There's so much going on, and I mean, with everything being in your hands, I'm sure it'll all pan out perfectly. So what does a typical day in your life look like as someone with, multiple roles and carrying such a big responsibility to such a big organization?
I was going to say, I'm a normal person, Emily. Indeed, my days are typically very busy. I do spend a lot of time in engagements, right? Engaging our internal organization, but also engaging our external stakeholders. I believe that the biggest asset of any organization, is our people, right? Because it's only through people that we can perform, we can deliver our business outcome. So I do spend a lot of time engaging our people. I get my energy, right? I mean, just from, being with my organization. And as a leader, I can't micromanage. I shouldn't be micromanaging, right? I'm not a manager, I'm a leader. So I'm here to support my organization. I'm here to enable them, right? To get out of their way and to simplify things for my organization. That's the reason why, typically I do spend a lot of time with my people, with my organization. Now, externally as well, we are not going to be able to be present long term in Malaysia if we don't work, right, with the government of Sarawak, with our federal government, with our joint venture partners, with our contractor partners. So I do spend a lot of time as well engaging with our external stakeholders, right, because it's only through this partnership, we can progress together. But one thing for sure, Emily, I believe that all this energy needs to come first from myself, from within. So I do create time every single day for myself, right? And I call this me time. So before I start the day, I will do a bit of workout. I need to have my coffee because that is kind of my booster in the morning. So I will always allocate time, first thing in the morning to do a bit of that me time before I start my day.
Wow, yes, it's definitely important to, fill your own cup before filling others.
Absolutely.
So what are some of, you've accomplished so much up to this point, up to today. Is there any more on your bucket list that you wish to achieve?
I only just came into role, right, on the 1st of January, and I would like to believe that I still have a few more years to go in this role, right? I'm super energized with what I've seen so far, and I believe that I still have a lot to contribute, right, to this organization, to Shell Malaysia Upstream. And it is a huge responsibility. And I truly feel honored and humbled, right, to be given the opportunity to lead Shell Malaysia Upstream, to lead Shell Malaysia as well as the country chair. I believe, Emily, it's only through my, performance track record, through the credibility that I build, right, that I can then, push forward. And of course, I want to play in kind of the bigger global space in the energy sector. But I want to make sure that I do my current role really well, right? So that I have got enough credibility, really solid and robust performance track record so that I can go higher. Now, I will cross the bridge whenever it comes, I would say.
Wow. So being one of the first, pioneers of women in this industry, what advice would you give to other women in the industry as well as the younger people who look up to them as role models?
Women can contribute a lot to the energy sector. And I have seen it, I've experienced it myself. I would say sky is the limit, right? Remove kind of the self-imposed perception and belief related to also the story that I just shared with you early on. Sometimes these are just kind of, a glass ceiling that we ourselves impose. For me, as long as you have the belief, you have the will, you can do it, right? But importantly, also know your priorities, because all of us play different roles. all of us have got multiple roles that we play, right? As women, I say that to myself as well. I'm a mother again. I'm a daughter. I'm a wife. I am an employee. So there are multiple roles that we play, and every single day we're juggling with this. Every single day we've got to make different decisions and choice points. So for me, it is important that, we know what the priorities are, and for me, it's always my family. But of course, our priorities will also change over time, right? And use that, as your North Star to kind of guide you in any decisions that you have to make along the way.
Wow, that's very empowering. What are some of your aspirations and hopes for Sarawak as a state, as someone who works in the oil and gas industry?
I would really love to see Sarawak being a leader in the energy transition. Emily, as I said, we started off, back in 1910, right? Shell started off here in Sarawak in 1910. And at that time, we were, doing this conventional oil and gas, we were exploring and producing. But today, if I look at what we have, not just present time, but just kind of the potential that Sarawak has huge potential in terms of being a leader in energy transition. So some of the examples that I mentioned to you around renewable, energy generation, solar, for instance, I think, we are already progressing a lot of that in Sarawak, including, what we are also doing in the upstream business. Hydropower, Sarawak is one of the pioneers when it comes to hydro power generation. And I know, with the post-COVID-19 development strategy that the Sarawak state, has announced quite recently, there's a lot more that Sarawak can do in that space. And, from a Shell perspective, I would really like to position ourselves as being a partner to the government of Sarawak in progressing the energy transition agenda here in Sarawak.
Wow. So, okay, one last question before we go. What's the one advice you'd like to give to our younger viewers watching at home, especially for someone who's accomplished so much and to be where you are today?
Yeah, nasihat kami lah dengan orang Sarawak kita yang muda-muda tu. Jangan takut. Kadang-kadang kita tak mikir banyak benda yang kita boleh mula. Sebab kita dengar banyak cerita daripada social media lah, daripada story yang kita pick up pergi coffee shop apa semua kan. Jadi sebab tu, kadang-kadang kita rasa takut. Tapi kami pun experience pernah bekerja dalam global organisation apa semua. Actually mun kita rajin nak belajar, kita curious, kita mau tahu apa lagi yang boleh kita mula, and kita mau keluar daripada kita pun comfort zone. Mun kita berani mula semua I can tell all of you, kita boleh mencapaikan apa-apa je yang kita mahu. Yang pentingnya kita mesti ada that curiosity. Kita also jangan takut, walaupun kita gagal, jangan takut. Kita boleh bangkit lagi. Kita boleh belajar daripada apa yang kita, yang pernah kita fail. Kita belajar, kita gunakannya untuk further improve ourselves. And bukan saja kita boleh jadi competitive in Sarawak ataupun Malaysia, sebab once kita dah dapat those experience, capability kita berani, kita boleh compete in the global space. So my advice to all of you, young Sarawakians, jangan takut. If there is a will, there is a way.
Wow. So empowering, so inspiring. Thank you so much for your time with us today, Siti. It's been an honor to meet you. We wish you all the best with your endeavors here at Shell, and we hope to see you soon.
Thank you very much, Emily.
Having been inspired by Siti's story and her years of dedication to the oil and gas industry, Emily feels a deep appreciation for her contributions. There are many more Sarawakians who are making significant contributions to the state in various areas of the energy industry, and Emily is eager to meet them throughout the series. But before that, the series will explore another part of the energy ecosystem, the community whose lives have been impacted by the energy industry of Sarawak. Emily is excited for this journey. They are heading to Bario. State of Energy is here to uncover what makes it possible for Bario to provide access to all these essentials despite its geological remoteness. Bala Metu Homestay is a cozy and elegantly furnished accommodation managed by Uncle Nawan and his wife, Auntie Patricia. Emily and her team stayed here during their visit to Bario and were blessed to have the opportunity to chat with their hosts about life in Bario.
So, Mr. Nawan, you brought us this far out. Where are we actually?
Actually, we are at this kampong, they call it Latumo. So Latumo and Kampong Baru. And that, behind me, this way, the Bario solar energy is generated. It covers almost a football field if you talk about the size of the panels area. Yeah.
Exactly. So what's the coverage like? Does it cover the whole of Bario? How many villages does it power?
Yes, within the 10 kilometers from here, I would say more than 10 long houses, including the two schools, the SMK and the SRK.
Wow. Usually like one power plant only supplies for like one kampong. So it's quite rare that it powers like the whole of Bario basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, so okay. On a night, I remember back then when you guys used to depend on generators.
Correct.
You know, the power supply is not exactly 24 hours.
Yes.
So how's it like with this?
We are very fortunate. This is 24 hours. Unlike in those days where you use your portable generator, you want to save on fuel, so you have to off it at night.
Yeah.
But this one is just, okay, it's 24 hours.
Wow, Bario is really blessed.
Yes, yes.
How did people in the early days first have access to electricity?
Well, I mean, we don't have electricity in those days, but on their own, they get this what they call portable generators and all these things. But eventually, the government see the needs, so they introduced this. What we have now is the solar plant system. Yeah.
So now with better access to power and fuel, what are some of the noticeable changes within the community?
One that I cannot ignore is this connectivity to the world. I remember in my old days when I'm studying overseas, I couldn't even talk to my dad for years. I mean, but now parents and child, they just talk anytime on the phone, and that's one. Of course, there are many other things like you can do online study now. I mean, the child don't have to be physically in the town, but they can be here. So I think we went through that during the COVID time. So a lot of things. I must say this energy that we have actually helped us a lot to achieve that targets. Because without energy, I remember in 2017 when I started this homestay. Before that, I used diesel generator. You know, it doesn't last for hours. You only on it for maybe 1 or 2 hours when you need it. But now we have this 24 hours of this energy, so it helps a lot in our life and it changes a lot the way we live. Yeah.
I must say we're having like a really comfortable stay here, despite being so far away from the city. But we have everything we need here.
I remember in the past we used a lot of firewood to do cooking, and that's not right now. Environmentalists wouldn't allow you to cut a lot of trees, but that's taken over by all this energy. Yeah. So that is another big change. Yeah.
Okay, so once again, thank you so much, Mr. Nawan, and I really hope you take in the consideration to take me in as a staff here at the homestay.
Yeah, you're welcome back to this homestay.
Yeah, so I'm not leaving tomorrow, right?
You'll stay. Yeah.
As we conclude our exploration of Sarawak's energy ecosystem, we are reminded of its profound impact on communities like Bario. From its stunning natural beauty to its rich cultural heritage, Bario offers a window into a world shaped by the energy that sustains it. We have also delved into the world of Siti Sulaiman, the Sarawakian woman leading in energy as the country chair of Shell Malaysia. Her dedication to the oil and gas industry is truly inspiring. In upcoming episodes, we'll meet more Sarawakians making significant contributions to the state's energy sector. Our journey through Sarawak's energy history brought us back to where it all began, Miri, the birthplace of Malaysia's oil industry. From agriculture to oil and gas, its socio-economic fabric promises an exciting future. Thank you for joining us on this captivating journey through Miri. Stay tuned as we uncover more stories, explore new landscapes, and delve deeper into Sarawak's fascinating energy world.